We are live, gentlemen.
Meow! and cat.
Yes, that's better timing.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the PC Perspective podcast, I guess. Live weekly tech talk on YouTube. I'm Sebastian Peak.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath. I'm Brett Van Spruenberg.
I can't even remember how to do this. I guess we introduce ourselves. And then, Josh, I just right off the bat, I'm going to get it out of the way. Burger. Do you have a burger update for us?
I didn't take a picture of one, but I did take a picture of the infamous tomato plant. It's finally fruiting, and we've got red tomatoes on it, and I've had some from it, and they're fantastic.
Josh, can the tomato plant make a live appearance? Is that possible?
I mean, it's possible, but maybe later.
Okay.
Okay. Well, it can make an appearance if I can grab the correct mouse here.
I just know that there was such excitement the last time that the tomato plant wandered on stage.
Yes.
It was smaller and less heavy back then.
It was still pretty big, but
That's the same tomato plant?
Yeah.
It's out of hand.
I mean, they grow. You water them, you put them in good soil, you give them light, and they magically grow. I breathe on it a little bit, and yeah.
Just like kids.
Yeah.
Someone on YouTube's asking if that's a weed plant. I don't believe so. I mean, it could be categorized as a weed.
Hey,
I guess. Not really.
Don't diss tomatoes like that.
He said it was a tomato anyway.
Tomato. I've never seen weed that has fruit like that. Bud, sure, but not big red orbs.
There's some really good pictures going on right now.
Oh, in the Discord?
Yes.
Yeah. It's always never safe to look at Discord. I won't do it.
No.
Hey, if anybody can guess what we're going to talk about today.
Vega.
There it is. Yep, we're talking about Vega. Talking about the last gasp of Vega, the Radeon 7. No, look at this thing. Look how beautiful this card looks.
Awesome.
If you're into that kind of industrial design. I like it.
Chamfered edges?
I think so.
It does look like it.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of, and I didn't notice this before. Somehow didn't pay attention. Look in the center. It looks like there's white LED lighting in the center, like kind of where the X is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, could be. Yeah, I don't know.
No, it's just ray tracing.
Oh, yeah.
You won't know if that's true aluminum or just some sort of aluminized plastic.
So, yeah, the NVIDIA GeForce countdown, we had the 21-day countdown, and then yesterday it all went down, and I was kind of watching the stream and waited through the kind of expected demos, and they went through actually their new broadcast software first, which I didn't really look too closely into. Everybody was waiting for the new GPUs. I couldn't believe it. There was like 120,000 people watching on their Twitch channel, and then it was 180. And then by the time I stopped paying attention, it was 247,000 people watching. And
wow.
It right off the bat, I don't know. I think they started with 3080. They released 3080 first, or announced it first.
Yep.
And then 3070, and then the one more thing basically was that 3090 is basically the replacement for a Titan. It's not, and they didn't announce any TI cards. I know there's some rumors swirling about TI variants with more memory coming, but this is what we have so far. We have a 3070, 3080, and 3090, and the CUDA core counts are so much higher than anything that had been supposedly leaked before. It makes me think NVIDIA was intentionally leaking stuff this time to keep their secrets. Does that sound plausible?
Yeah.
Or for them to trace their leaks by selectively giving the wrong numbers to different people to see which numbers voted out.
Because video cards was way low, and they've been very accurate with the last few launches because they've been getting information leaked directly from like AMD events, like E3 last year. Somebody leaked right from the auditorium, and we had all of NVIDIA's super stuff leaked in advance, I think, last year, which they were not terribly thrilled with. So if you are watching and can see this little spec table, 5,888 CUDA cores for the new RTX 3070, 8,704 with the 3080, and the 3090 has 10,496 CUDA cores. Memory is 8 gigs of GDDR6 for the 3070, moves up to 10 of GDDR6X with the 3080, and then 24 gigs of 6X with the 3090. And pricing was the really, really big story, I think, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those first two SKUs were much lower priced than I was expecting.
Oh, heck yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing.
Coming out at the exact same price, like, did not see that coming at all.
Hey, the weird thing is this is very similar to 2000 series pricing, where people had a bit of an attack over it, but now it seems inexpensive because the performance is so much higher.
Amazing what you can get used to in 2020, isn't it?
Let's not go there.
Yeah, the pricing.
That's fine.
What do you think the likelihood is that they know what AMD has, or they've just kind of extrapolated from what we know from the consoles, RDNA 2 architecture was capable of, look at what the projected like CU numbers are, and say, well, they're going to have this much GPU power when they release the big Navi card, so we need this much to have our lead.
It's plausible.
Like if they think that they know that it does not scale past 80 CUs or whatever it's going to be, and they're like, we have to do this to be the leader. Maybe 3090 will be the card that actually is the leader, not 3080. Maybe AMD will match 3080, but I don't know. It almost looks to me like maybe the product stack was shifted a little bit. Because in the past, there hasn't been anything in my memory as an enthusiast when I was actually buying GPUs like this. I think on Linus's video yesterday, he said that you had to go back to, he was looking at a non-tech article from 2004. The last time there was a jump this big by NVIDIA was like the 6000 series over the 5000 series.
Right.
Yeah, well, the 8000 series was a significant jump over the 7000 because that was the first year of the unified shaders. Before that, it was all just, you had pixel shaders and you had vertex shaders. And then the 8800 series, the GTX and the GT, they introduced the unified design, and there was like 128 shaders when before there was 24 pixel, and like, I'm probably getting the 7800 series, 7900 series wrong. It's like 32 pixel shaders and 8 vertex. I can't remember, but yeah, it was that was another significant jump where the differences were dramatic, and that was, of course, the same year as the Radeon 2900 XT, which, if you turned off anti-aliasing, would was very competitive with the 8800 series, and that was another unified shader count. Unified shader, yeah.
And speaking of shaders, just looking at the CUDA core counts, because obviously we have the early look at performance based on NVIDIA's own internal testing, what they say it's going to entail. And the early first look was Digital Foundry, who was sampled beforehand, and they actually had their thing up immediately. And so check that out if you want to see actual in-game benchmarks and some other testing that they did. But the performance is just, the 3070 is targeting 2080 Ti levels. So now the low entry level graphics card is supposed to be better performance than the current flagship. So the $499 card now outperforms the $1,200 card. And of course, it isn't a $1,200 card because in the current market, you cannot buy a 2080 Ti for $1,200. You might be, I mean, no, not a new one, right? If you were to go shopping, PC Part Picker, go anywhere, it's like for a Founders Edition, it's $1,500, $1,600 and up. They're very scarce. They've basically been discontinued at this point. So, and now this makes perfect sense that we have this new launch, but
it's good because I think we should have a moment of silence for recent 2080 Ti buyers, actually.
Yeah.
That's got to hurt.
I'm
Sorry.
Too soon. Too soon.
I hope you find a buyer in the secondary market who doesn't pay attention to tech news.
Oh,
or if you're just really mad and want to get rid of it, just feel free to ship it to any of us.
Sure. Some friend of mine, he was talking to me over Twitter. He's like, should I sell it? Should I sell it? I was like, yeah, you might as well. I mean, they're going for good prices, and you can just invest that money in the next generation. And so he sold it for like $1,000 or something like that. I mean, he had it for about a year and a half or a year, and so he sold it for $1,000. 2 weeks later, they're selling for 500, maybe less.
Not everybody kind of really grasps the fact that it has been 2 years. It was this time 2018 when the 2000 series came out, and it's actually been a long time. So,
well, I think we were kind of talking about that last week. That the depreciation of having a card for 2 years that was top end was pretty good.
I find it very interesting that they definitely laid down a 1080 Ti marker on their graphs saying it's safe to come out of the water, 10 series people.
Yeah. That's really going to be the data point. I think it'll be the most interesting to see in charts. Like, you can compare it against the current RTX 20 series, and it's going to be obviously most important to do that looking at the new second gen RTX stuff for ray traced game benchmarks. But I want to see the data point from Pascal of just 1080 Ti versus 3070 versus 3080, because that card was so incredibly good, even at $699, that it stood the test of time. It was 2 years down the road. Who is going to upgrade from a 1080 Ti when you're looking at the 2080?
It's pretty much on par.
Yeah,
unless
maybe
you're
a little
ray
bit faster
tracing or DLSS.
Yeah.
And then to go
newer
from
games, it likes better, but honestly, you're not going to see a huge return on the money that you'd have to toss in.
If it was 10%, that would have been a lot. I mean, it was really close in most of them. 2080 Super was a little bit better. Yeah.
Architecturally speaking, I'll hand this one to Josh, just off the top of your head. Is there how big, just from the raster side of things, like forget RTX, just standard old 3D DirectX 11 stuff?
Props.
What was was there even a significant improvement between Pascal and Turing there?
It was, it's about 15%.
Yeah,
per clock improvement. I mean, it was definitely there. I remember testing out a 1070 and a 2060 that was slightly overclocked, and I was amazed by how much faster the 2060 was over the 1070. And even though it had less memory and I think it was the shader count was identical, or at least a little bit less. I can't remember offhand, but it was significantly faster. And that I believe that I did review that. It was the Asus 2060 overclock. And I thought it was, well worth the price considering how much faster it was than the old 1070. And the 1070 I tested against was a highly overclocked MSI Gaming Z. And so that was, already a jump up from a standard 1070. And the 2000 series were, in just terms of raster shader, they were a significant improvement over the previous generation. And then you add in tensor cores, and then you add in the RTX cores, and we can see why those became as big of chips as they were, because we've had a generational difference, and then we had all that extra stuff added in. And so overall, their margins were still probably pretty decent with the cards, but those chips were all very big for the size of the market. I mean, the one was 700 and some for the 2080 Ti and the 2080, the cut down version. So there was still a lot of design work going in, and for some people it was an improvement. But again, the 10 series was released in 2016. Is that right?
Is it? Maybe it was 2017. I don't know. I don't remember. I know that 20 series was 2018.
Let's do the magic of Google.
It's got to be 2016.
Feels like
GTX 10 1080 release date is May 27th, 2016.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what I thought.
So yeah, if you bought a 1080 or 1080 Ti, you could still, in theory, be using it. No, the 1080 Ti was released the year after.
Yes. Yeah, they did the same thing as they're doing with this one, where you got the 3080 or 1080, 1070, and then they just went insane, and 1060s and GTXs and all of that sort of wacky stuff.
If you had had a 1080, you could still, in theory, be using that without any problem with most of the titles out now.
I am.
Well, congratulations.
It is a fancy overclocked ASUS one, but still, it's...
March 9, 2017, our 1080 Ti review went up.
But are they going to be doing a kind of an Editor's Day deep dive on the 3000 series with you? Or can you say?
I don't know if I can say. I think it makes perfect sense that they would be if I can't say that they are.
Okay. Well, anyway, yeah, because I mean, they talked about a few things in the launch. Like one is they've got double the shading outputs as compared to previous generation, but they only really kind of glossed over that. And so I wonder if the stream count, the shader counts, reflects that or something different. I'm guessing it kind of reflects that, maybe they took some from AMD's book, and so each shader core has got two front ends. I don't know. That'd be kind of funny, wouldn't it be? CMT multi-threading.
Well, they must have done something.
Yeah, because these stream counts or core counts are insane.
They discussed a little bit, and there've obviously been refinements, improvements. It's a new architecture, and we will absolutely be going over it in depth because they're providing all that information.
I know that they had their previous generation had where they could do a certain kind of operation one at a time, and they weren't able to do them at the same time. But now they're able to share some of the capacity of, and I don't remember what it was exactly.
Rasterization and RT cores.
Was it really? Yeah. Was that what it was? Okay, well they don't have to swap anymore. They can do them simultaneously now. So
yeah, it's a much more efficient architecture all around, and how they do the tensor cores is different as well.
That was
so you have 3 times the overall throughput and performance, which is again insane. And excuse me, one thing I'm a little disappointed about is the only NVLink enabled one is the 3090. So 3080, 3070, if you want to do SLI and use NVLink, you're out of luck because they do not support it.
What game supports it, though? What could you do with SLR today?
Yeah, not much.
If only Flight Simulator did.
If only. Yeah, the thing that we use, I know at my work, NVLink and CUDA allows you to see the 2 memory pools kind of as one. And so you get, pretty fast memory transfers in between the GPUs over NVLink. And so you're able to do that effectively. And so essentially, if you've got 2 8-gig cards, you put NVLink, and when you're doing machine learning stuff and CUDA and that type of work, it just sees it as one memory pool of 16 gigs. And so the guys at my work are doing a lot of this stuff with the 2 2080 Ti's that we threw in there. And again, it sees them as 22 gigs of memory pool that it can work with. And so, some of these guys have some training that just are massive, 15, 16, 17 gigs in size. And these 3090s with 24 gigs of memory per and the ability to do NVLink for only $1,499. This is going to be
keep buying.
This is going to be, I mean, if companies can actually get a hold of them, which we can talk about later, they're going to supercharge kind of the medium business machine learning AI type stuff, and it's all powered by CUDA and people using Python, whatever. But yeah, the ability to put 2 of them together for $3,000 and have 48 gigs of usable memory and 3 times per card the tensor performance of the previous gen. It's just gonna be a rocket ship for these mid-level machine learning things. So you don't have to pay $60,000 to $100,000 to get one of the DG ones or DGX ones or whatever the hell they're called. You can, do a $7,000 super workstation and get the performance, multiple times of what you can do now that $60,000 would buy you a year and a half ago.
Yeah, it's important to remember that $1,500 is an extreme value for those kinds of use cases. It's not expensive at all.
Yeah, think about what an amazing bargain the Radeon 7 was, even when it launched at $699. Because if
compute,
right? Yeah. If you could use the 16 gigs of HBM2, that was a steal of a compute card, and that's of course why the market kind of reacted to that. And after the card was EOL'd, then it went down to like 529. I think was the lowest I ever saw it. And then all of a sudden it shot up to triple digits, and then 4 digits. Like it was at triple digits. It went to like 900, 1,000, 1,200. So then it was about the same as getting a 2080 Ti. So but it had more memory, and if you could take advantage of it, then it was a go-to. And I feel like for 1,500, if you can actually find them for that, that's what the 3090 will end up becoming. Yeah, it'll be the huge flex for a gamer who can actually afford one to put it in their system, but it has that Titan DNA. It's more of a quasi workstation card. And they showed 8K gaming with it, which is something you could do with a massive GPU and all that memory, but 8K displays are not common.
And that's DLSS playing tricks.
Of course. Yeah.
Pushing that many pixels. I'm sorry, it's an amazing card, but that's
those tetracores, baby.
Yeah, true.
Super powering DLSS.
So you're saying they're subsampling it down to an easy to handle 4K and then interpolating it back up. Like how hard is that?
Yeah.
True. It is a fancy trick.
I'm noticing in looking at the YouTube chat a lot of talk about the fact that it's not really going to be available at launch, which wouldn't surprise me. Like there'll probably be very few. I'm sure everybody will get sampled and all the reviews will be up, but it'll be, who knows? I would not be surprised. I've heard nothing official, but
yeah, I've heard rumors. Well, read them that availability will be pretty bad throughout the rest of the year, not just for the NVIDIA stuff, but also for what was released today from Intel. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see when the 24th comes around and those 3090s are finally put on sale, how many units they're actually going to ship. I mean, they won't tell us.
Oh, no.
But I may be staying up half the night waiting for that and have like a preloaded order or something from my work.
Hey, wouldn't a pre-order link be nice for any of this stuff?
Yeah, but they're not doing that because they just don't have the ability, and they don't want to tell us how many they're actually going to ship.
But the only way you could do the pre-order is CyberPower PC has already taken orders for full systems.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hey, just dump the system, give it to a friend, put your old GPU in it, and resell it.
Hey, we did that for AMD, so why not?
Yeah, sometimes you have to do what you have to do. Like when the 3950X launched, the only place you could actually get one in stock for a while was a Dell Alienware system. That's just the way it was. We have to talk about power and process.
What you gonna do with all that power?
I know. I had this up a second ago, but they're talking about the 1.9x perf per watt improvement.
Which you better hope is true.
Over Turing, which is, it's big.
Well, it is. Yeah. I mean, it is a greater power efficiency because they are more than double the performance in many of these cases. And a 2080 Ti is a 250 watt TDP board, and a 3090 is 340 watt board power. Is that right? 340?
I think it was 320, 340, or 320, 350, something like that.
It varied.
350? It might be 350, but I know the 3080 is 320, and then the 3070 is 310, I think. And so, yeah, you're improving your efficiency, but you're just slamming these things. They're clocked up there. They're large chips. It's Samsung 8 nanometer, which apparently is a slightly improved Samsung 10 nanometer process.
Yeah.
I've heard some not positive things.
It's the try-hard 8 nanometer.
Yeah, and that could be the limitation of a lot of what we see that Samsung is still working on being able to effectively fabricate these things. And again, the 3090 is going to be a large chip. It just is. It's going to be 500 millimeter square plus. And you're dealing with the new process. And yeah,
Genius Jordan says 400 watts for the partner cards.
Wow,
that is amazing. Yeah, I was seeing TBD on the stuff that I had looked at so far. Like I went through the MSI stuff because they sent a press release this morning, and everything in the boxes on their table for power and for clocks was to be determined. So that's interesting because that would, if they have the ability to cool it, and we've seen some pretty exotic cooling solutions. I guess I was unaware that EVGA already did double width rads for some of their hybrid designs, because I've only ever seen a single like 120 coming off of a GPU, and they've got 240s.
That was the previous Kingpin. That was the 20 series Kingpin, had a 240.
Did it? Okay.
Yes. This Kingpin, EVGA Kingpin, is actually being equipped with a 360 freaking rad, if you can believe it.
Now that probably does have close to a 400 watt TDP then.
It's also not 3 slots.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's 3 slots plus, or 2 slots plus a radiator.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got room in your case for an extra rad. I would take one. I'm not going to say no to one.
Yeah, Fantex will sell you a case for that. So
yeah. This is funny too, because if you remember, I could try to find a picture of it. You know that Asetek Alienware sidecar cooler?
Oh, vaguely remember that.
Oh, the one that takes up the other slot?
Yes.
That goes right next to it? Yeah.
Sure. Let's see. I have an article about it.
I mean, it's a thing. They're trying to make it quieter.
Oh, here we go.
And what else are you going to put in that slot? I mean, it's a pre-built. The idea is that it's going into people's hands who probably aren't going to open the case and do a lot with it, right?
So you've got the traditional, like, ultra compact Dell enclosure here that they've been using since very, very long ago. That's their current design. And they're putting a liquid cooler in it where they otherwise would not have room for another fan, really. By doing this double, it looks thicker than the GPU. It's another at least 2 slots, all in one liquid cooler in the shape and size of a GPU that attaches to the companion GPU, and this is just a 2080 Super right now. I can totally see this, especially since Dell is talking about how they're ready. They're ready for the new graphics card. So I'm sure they're going to have a Asetek custom variant of the 3080 with this sort of sidecar liquid cooler in their latest version of the Aurora. So it's just
with
one
a proprietary 12-pin PCIe connector that won't match anyone else's.
It's a different 12-pin.
It will be, because Dell just does that.
Yeah, if you're keeping score at home, it's not the same 12-pin as it's just different.
It'll be a 8-pin and a 4-pin that are split, but they don't match anything.
Yeah.
Like their power supply connectors with that one weird 6-pin that goes into the board. Don't plug PCIe power into the board, though. You'll probably fry it.
No, it will be very unhappy.
Yeah.
Sparky.
I don't mind working on Dell systems. I've worked on a lot of them, but it's one of those things. It's like you've got to buy the Dell OEM PSU, pretty much. There's no leeway there.
They're saying that they want their, I don't know, if this is the word from NVIDIA or not, but they're saying don't sign up unless you got a 750 watt power supply or not. I don't know if I believe that, but that's
I would believe it if you go through power supply calculators.
750 seems like a lot, though.
Dude, you could do lower, but it'd be unstable.
You think?
Like power spikes would not be good.
Josh,
no. But here's what happens: is so I had an 850 watt power supply, and we had a Threadripper. You know, it was reasonable power, not anything crazy. And one 2080 Ti, and we put a second 2080 Ti, and this is a pretty good high-end Corsair HX 850 watt power supply. And they would get this training going, and the power supply would just blah. It would do the soft reset, and it would just knock power to the system. And then you'd have to go in, unplug it, wait 10 minutes, plug it back in, and boot up fine. But it would just power down. And so you're looking at that kind of behavior if you don't have a 750 watt power supply, because even though it's a 350 watt board power, it's going to peak up into the 400 450 range probably under certain circumstances.
And chances are you don't have a Ryzen 5 attached to it.
Well, I can understand.
You've got a power hungry CPU.
Yeah,
I could definitely understand keeping in the efficiency range and say, you don't want to be peaking it out anyway. So, but that's
running my PSU at 97% for 100% of the day is not recommended.
They said it was gold rated.
It's platinum, man.
Platinum.
You know how warm power supplies get at that point?
Yeah.
Well, it's not molten yet, right?
Not yet.
Don't turn it off till it starts desoldering itself.
Slag those caps.
Let me unmute myself. I went through the Be Quiet power supply calculator just now.
Oh, yes.
I put together a system. I don't think it shows now. Oh, yeah, 3900X. There's not any 30 series stuff yet, so I did 2080 Ti Founders Edition. Single SATA drive, 2 sticks of RAM, 2 fans, no water cooling.
2?
I just put numbers into the boxes. Anyway, it's showing an 83% load on a 550. I mean, it would be doable. But that's if you're at 2080 Ti levels. This would require more. So I would say at the absolute minimum, don't try to run this unless you have at least a 650 and really 750.
Yeah.
But because these numbers are going to be
they're 100 watts
higher.
Over. They're 100 watts over. It's rough estimate.
Add 100 to this. So 750 sounds right. And if you look at NVIDIA's specifications, if you go to their GeForce page, go to the full specs link, it's showing 750 watts.
Yes.
So I was, we thought 850, or at least some people were saying 850 because of the Seasonic leak about the 12-pin connector to the 2 8-pins. Seasonic's recommendation is 850, but I think the bare minimum is going to be 650 to 750. And that's if you don't have a lot of drives.
Go that low.
I agree. But I mean, if you've already got like a 750 watt power supply, it seems like it's going to be okay.
Kind of blocks out a lot of the small form factor builds, where people like to build high power portable.
The 3090 is a small form factor build in and of itself.
Hey, speaking of small form factor, let's look at this visual.
I mean, I guess there's an 800, right? I know this is 750 for in an SFX. In an extended SFX, what do they call it? SFX Plus.
SFX-L for long.
Thank you. SFX long. You can get an 800.
Oh, you can now. The power density is there.
Oh, yeah.
Look at the thermals. Now, obviously, this is just Founders Edition. The new Founders Edition cooler, we talked about this. I think we talked about this last week when NVIDIA released this video that talked about the new thermal design, the new 12-pin that was coming. And here is a look. Here's their model of airflow. And you have fans on both sides of the cooler, of course, and it's drawing air in from below. And it's pushing it out through that section of the cooler that does not have any PCB under it. It's just straight up passing air through the heatsink on the right-hand side and directly into the path of your memory and CPU.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw a flag on this play though. This is not inventive on their part. There have been a large number of cards that have done this.
Really? This exact airflow pattern? I don't remember.
Yes.
Okay.
Power Color, Vega 56, Vega 64, off the top of my head.
Really?
Yeah.
With fans on both sides?
Not
I call BS on your claim.
But blow through, 3-fan design, blow straight through up into the. So go ahead and look for the back.
Yeah, I think some of the double Ds
Red
did
Devil.
the exact same thing too.
Go look for the picture of the back of a Vega 56 Red Devil from Power Color, for instance.
Okay. I'm just because it has that like cut out, to the right of the. It's a very, very dense PCB. Watching the design video about this,
I don't know how they got everything in there.
I don't know.
It's 16 power phases, that thing, and it's it's a huge chunk out of it that.
And they still made it a flying V.
Yeah.
Hey,
crazy.
18, Josh, 18 power phases.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And the other thing, the elephant in the there's so many.
Besides the hot air into the CPU.
Yeah, all of that. One of the other things is this is a PCIe 4.0 product.
Yeah.
So it makes perfect sense to marry this to, a Ryzen system when, their own internal benchmarks and what a lot of outlets are going to end up doing is throwing it on their typical Intel powered GPU test bed. And I was thinking, this is the time. Grab the Crosshair board, put the 3900X or 3950X in it and test that way. And then manually enable and disable, PCIe Gen 4 and see if that makes any kind of a difference at all, which I'm sure it won't. But
maybe at the 3090 it might in some things, but
machine learning stuff, I bet.
Machine learning is definitely
gaming. I don't know.
No, I mean, I was talking to a machine learning guy again on Twitter, and he's like, yeah, some of our loads, they do choke a PCIe 3.0, and so they're looking forward to this.
I'm just speechless as I stare at these photos. The design, there's kind of a weird design difference with the 3070 when I had that pulled up.
Mm-hmm.
You've got, here's the 3080 design. And then you've got down here, look at the top of the 3070. It's just one of those 12 pins, but it's right in the middle. So you've got kind of everybody's going to have a cable right front and center in their build, but I'm sure somebody will do a 90 degree angle connector. It'll look okay, but just kind of an odd choice there.
Yeah,
it is. But that's like the only place they could mount it on the PCB.
Mm-hmm.
It's a short PCB. It actually ends.
That's the end of the PCB. You're right.
Yep.
Yeah,
right there. That's as far down the card as they could get it without using their 2060 series. They had that little extender inside there to kind of move it to the end.
Yeah, not the best idea.
Because the 2060 PCB was actually a little bit shorter in order to kind of make it universal. They could have done something like that, but that would have added cost and complexity and power movement.
And when you introduce more connections into a wire, it also does some bad things.
Absolutely. There's
increase that resistance.
Yep. Current reduction across every boundary.
Have you seen the new EVGA stuff, by the way? I'm not sure what's going on here.
It's a circus carnival.
Here's the blow up of the design here. And even this aftermarket design is still going to have air through PCB. So it's aftermarket, it's custom, but it's still using a short PCB. I wonder if that's just like wave one, or if everybody's going to be going with short PCB, extra long cooler. And it also seems like there's a little bit of a battle to who can have the longest graphics card. I think 12.5 is the longest one I've seen so far, but I mean, somebody's got to do a 13.
Size isn't everything.
If XFX could do a 13-inch long RX 5600 XT, I mean, that thick 3 Ultra that I reviewed last year, I think, was like 13 inches long. And that's just a RX 5600 XT. So you'd think a 3090 out there might be 13 or longer. And I'm noticing a lot of those triple fan designs. Everybody seems to have a triple fan design for this. So it's not going to be a very cool running card. They got a lot of this extra performance out of it by making that decision of, okay, with 8 nanometer, with the enhanced 8 nanometer, whatever, class custom Samsung process they're using, they could go with power efficiency or push for better performance at higher power draw. So now we're left with cards that kind of start at 2080 Ti levels and move up to 350 watts at the top end. So, and the max temp, when I was looking at specs, I believe max temp on these is like 92, 94. Yeah, which is 10 degrees higher than the 20 series, which always kind of petered out at around 80, 82, and then adjusted clocks to maintain that.
Oh, so that means the clock adjustment curve is going to be different, unexpected.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's where that 400 number comes from, because if you have one of these high-end overclockable cards, if it has like a plus 10% or plus 12% on power, then yeah, you're hitting 400 watts pretty quickly.
Hey, so, those AIB cards are probably going to have regular 8-pin connectors, by the way, not the...
Really? That's just a Founders Edition thing?
Well, I saw, EVGA one had 3 of the 8s.
Yeah, if you pull that picture back up, you'll see that that's what reminded me of it.
Okay. What picture do I have up? I'm on the EVGA site. This is the blow up.
Jacob has a Twitter feed.
Yes.
Has that.
Yeah, that's where I saw it.
Shows it.
Okay. I'll have to look at it.
And that's where I told Jacob not to strain your wrist. Because he's like holding it one-handed and it looks...
It's a
really
2-person
heavy.
Oh, he should have a brace or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's big.
Not because he's just excited about the card.
And it looks like a carnival ride.
This is going to create a situation where card sag is going to be a very real problem.
We don't talk about that out loud.
Oh, it's a reality.
They had some kind of, and they talked in that video they released last week that there was some kind of spring-loaded stuff in there to decrease
supposedly
PCB flex and how it attaches to the back end with the bracket. That they're supposedly there's some improvements there, so
it's
that
like
sag
towing a heavy trailer.
Yeah,
balance the load. Well, I mean the old 7900 series from AMD came quite often with a little jack inside of it.
Oh.
I know what was that 7950 I had?
I just found that picture.
Oh, it was an HIS.
Oh, okay.
And that one definitely came with a little jack inside of it that you could put if you were worried.
Yeah, there they are.
The bottom of the case or something, right? If it was like stood out. Is that what you're talking about? Or are you talking about the end piece that leveraged it up? Like you put it on the outside?
No, it was the literal jack that was separate. Okay. And so it looked a little bit like a C-clamp. And so you just balanced it on the bottom of the case and clicked it up so that it would hold the GPU.
On the bottom of the case, yeah.
It wasn't pretty, but it worked.
Do you want to talk any more about this? I think we've I feel like it's been a letdown kind of a day. Like yesterday, I was preparing for yet another one of these sort of iterative launches, and it was going to be really expensive, and all I was hearing was like this $1,400, and I was buying into the rumors that it wasn't going to be a huge generational leap in performance. And then all of this happened at once, and the pricing, I just can't get over the 3070. $499 for the same performance or even better of the 2080 Ti, which is a card that for me personally is out of reach. I don't buy the high-end graphics card. I live in that, like, I'd be the 3070 buyer. I would have been the 2070 buyer at best, like a 2060 Super guy. So this is crazy. Like I would just make it happen to get a 3070 at $499 if I'm budgeting out a new PC build.
Right.
It just seems like a no-brainer at this point. It's such an incredible, because the performance they were talking about, obviously I mentioned 2080 Ti for the 3070, 2x the performance of a 2080 for the 3080, which is crazy. It's like they're talking basically double the performance of last gen. When I've seen the comments like, oh, of course, it should be that way. That's how it should be, gen to gen.
It used to be that way.
Have you ever, go back in time really, really far? Sure, when they went from 33 to 66 megahertz, from generation to generation with a CPU. Or, we would go from 486 era to Pentium when there was basically two 486s baked into a Pentium. But you don't have that anymore. The biggest most exciting things we've seen recently are in the CPU space, and it's AMD, and it's because of core count. They've pretty much caught up with Intel as far as PC, and now they have just incredible core count for your money. So
there's two other things that I find noteworthy with this, and that's DMA from storage into VRAM. That's actually pretty cool.
Oh, the new NVIDIA I/O stuff.
Yeah, they have a name. Is NVIDIA I/O?
NVIDIA I/O.
Yeah, it's very interesting how they're. I'm curious as to how they're going to institute I/O calls, or how they're going to facilitate that between storage and VRAM. I'm very curious as to how they're going to make that happen. I mean, sure, bus mastering I/O, that's fine. They can do that. DMA, that's fine. But they have to somehow interact through the operating system, I would think. And
isn't this part of kind of a build on as storage spaces that Microsoft's been?
They did mention that specifically,
but yeah. That's still API calls that they're issuing essentially potentially from the video card side onto the bus for the OS to pick up and go, oh, well, let me handle that for you. Very interesting that the OS or that the graphics card's going to be doing that.
Well, I think the big push is that they were talking about. It was handling a lot of the offload of decompression.
Yeah.
That it was just, instead of the CPU decompressing all these things, it's just sending it directly to the GPU, which handles all of that. So you're skipping a stage. So I wonder if, I don't think it's like, NVIDIA says, hey, I'm going to go and snatch this off the drive.
Right.
It still is like, hey, CPU, mind if I take this? CPU's like, yeah, go right ahead.
Okay,
it's like, okay, I'm going to do stuff with it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
The implication that it's going to make instantaneous load screens, which it is sort of mentioned, seems less likely than this sort of thing, where it's taking something that the CPU used to be the better choice for and saying, you know what, actually, you deal with PCIe lanes and everything else. I can handle this.
Yeah. And maybe this is all stuff that, is well known kind of in the industry, and they just haven't really talked to us because the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, I mean, they're doing these same kind of things where I/O is kind of the next hurdle that they're taking on, so that you have more seamless worlds and far less loading times and doing other things while stuff loads in the background and just much more efficient use of drive resources, I guess.
Pretty cool, though. The other geeky thing was the signaling and how they're essentially
that's
PAM4.
wild. I don't get that still. Apart from the newer networking technologies use it.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
We talking about the memory signaling or just because I know there was some new stuff.
I was
about the way
talking
signaling
about
works
the
with
memory
G's.
signaling.
Yeah.
That it's almost what there are 4 values that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Two bits per. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Very cool.
4-level PAM4. 4
PAM4. I said PAM4
cycle.
Yep. Nobody ever listens to me.
I'm sorry, Josh.
I did, but I was
talk over me.
Instead of single bit, per clock rate, it's 2 bits. So they've essentially doubled the bandwidth by being able to detect sub-voltage levels or different voltage levels. Very cool.
Oh, hey, and a low-key thing. There's supposed to be this. Let's see. The 30 series is the first PC GPU to support HDMI 2.1. So now you can do.
So they've caught up to 1.4A.
Yeah. Single cable 8K. It's going to happen. Maybe someday. I mean, yeah, 4K. I think I was responding to somebody on Twitter this morning. Like 8K does not appeal to me in any way as a TV format because at this point, almost nothing is high bit rate 4K anyway. Yeah. And even the 1080p stuff streams at like DVD bit rates. And at some point, you're watching a streaming program, and yeah, it's higher resolution, but the color information that's there is so low. I would rather
it's all blocky. Yeah. It's really high definition blocks, but it's blocky.
Let's factor in your viewing distance there too, which is really huge.
Did I take my glasses off? Looks fine now.
Yeah.
Some natural anti-aliasing going on.
Hey, did you want to talk about anything else I know we'd mentioned something about that crazy, insane SSD.
Oh yeah. What's up with that thing? It's like, can I have a 16 terabyte SSD, please? No, but you can have a 15 terabyte one.
15.3.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to leave 0.3 terabytes on the table.
And it is the industry's largest capacity 2.5-inch consumer SSD.
Yeah, it's still SATA 6 too, so that's kind of fun.
How'd they do this?
How do they do this? It's just lots of chips and a controller that can handle it.
Yeah. And it's only 7 millimeters high. I was thinking, this is gonna be like some thick thing. Oh no, it's just the standard old SSD size.
When
well,
can
if you think a 4 terabyte NVMe drive is really not that large, just you can do that.
I want to see inside this thing.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Speaking also, we also had 2 other PCIe 4.0 announcements.
Oh yes.
Yeah, one from Samsung and one from Sabrent. Sabrent has the enhanced Phison new controller that now matches a lot of the base speeds of the Samsung 980, up to 7 gigs per second. Is that right?
Yeah, it is. It's the fastest.
7 gigs per second reads, but they increase writes over Samsung up to like 6.3 gigs per second, while Samsung is down at 5 for writes. But the problem there is it's still TLC stuff. So once you kind of get past that fast cache, then it slows right down to like 2 gigs per second, which is still pretty good for writing.
So this is beyond Rocket Q4. This is something newer than that. Okay.
Yeah, this is brand new. It's the Rocket 4 Plus or
interesting,
whichever one. Yeah.
Why do they not have a news page? I don't see news on their site anyway. Yeah, the other one
got a website.
I'm on their website.
They got a page that actually has it on there.
Okay, I need to find it because I'm looking at the wrong thing. I'm looking at the Q4, not the Q4 Plus.
No, it's the Rocket, 4 Plus or whatever it's called. Sabrent Rocket 4 Plus.
All right.
PCIe 4.
And then, of course, also Samsung, the new 980 Pro is PCIe 4.
But it's not so much Pro anymore.
Why not?
Because it's not MLC, it's TLC.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it's not QLC. This is the sad thing about living in present time. TLC is now this. I look at it as the preferred type of NAND, and it's.
Well, I mean, I'm very concerned. 600 terabytes written will go by in a flash.
Cha-ching.
So yeah, having it from 1200 to 600, it's not going to impact any of us. Like, I'm sorry, not even the machine that you're doing the streaming and stuff and recording on is going to go through that very quickly. But that was sort of like the Evo's job. A little bit cheaper and as fast. So I'm curious what this means for the Evo. Is it going away? Is it going to go in a different direction? I'm not sure.
Look at I'm sorry, but look at the heatsink.
Yeah,
the Sabrent
4 Plus. It's got heat pipes. It's got. It looks like it's like an inch and a half tall.
They did that with the original one.
Yeah.
That it
heat
was
pipes.
They had that funky one. You could buy that thing separately.
Okay.
Or you could buy the combo that had that on there if you didn't have kind of heat sinks on your motherboard.
There are a lot of boards that don't reserve that free space above that area, that amount of free space.
Oh, you mean that's the boards that shove it down under the graphics card? Look at this.
Yeah, that stick it right between the first PCIe slot and where the graphics card or the CPU cooler sits, the first slot there, or maybe even the ones that go on the back. That's never gonna fit.
No.
Yeah, but there's still about 8 to 10 watts for the controller.
Well, Alan told me that those should be hot. They need to be hot. Alan says they need to be hot.
The flash needs to be hot when they're writing, but otherwise you want to keep them more cool and blah blah. Yeah, we done now.
La 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 la. Alan says they need to be hot. La la.
Yeah.
If they're warm, the performance is higher and the longevity is better, right? Like you don't want it to cool down and warm up. It needs to be a consistent, warmish operating temperature. I thought.
Flash.
We're talking about the NAND, not the controller.
Legitimately, the controller.
Yeah.
The controller should be not hot, not as hot.
Just have your 3080 or your 3090 pointed at it. That'll keep it nice and warm.
Sure. You want your heatsink for your NVMe to stick up in the way of that airflows to suck some of the heat down onto your memory chips.
I don't see any actual specs. It's just a press release, basically, and I'm not seeing watts.
What, the rocket for?
Yeah. Maybe I'm missing it. I don't see a link here for specs.
I just keep scrolling down, and they used to.
Let me go. I'll let you see what I'm seeing here. Let's see. Or not you, but any people watching. It shows like the improvement in, copper versus aluminum, thermal tape by 2. Wow, double thermal tape, top and bottom.
Top and bottom. So I'm kind of curious if this would run effectively with just a motherboard that had the top heatsink. If there's some component down below that gets a little, they're not. They don't release with the TDP. I think that I did read something that it was around 8 to 10.
Okay. Which is significant. I mean, if you don't know, about 5, 6 is usually the top of what most controllers would be putting out. And it's less than that in certain controllers, and there are certain ones that are better optimized for mobile, and that's why they're kind of capped. The performance is capped because of power concerns. So you don't have the super fast sequentials necessarily on some laptops, but
they also don't have PCIe 4, so
right. That was one of the things about we don't have to get into Tiger Lake stuff, but Intel did talk to their videos up. I think it's actually up on their product pages now. Their video presentations about the new Tiger Lake stuff, and that's one of the things that was coming out about that is that it's PCIe Gen 4, but only 4 lanes off of the CPU, and you have to go to the PCH for additional storage. So if you want the fast PCIe 4 storage in a laptop, it's going to have to be iGPU. If you want discrete GPU, it's either or. Unless you go PCIe Gen 3 off the chipset and then have 4 lanes of PCIe 4 for some sort of discrete GPU implementation. So obviously, that's what we're going to be seeing. And we're going to see Tiger Lake gaming laptops with whatever the mobile variant of the 30 series is, probably just using 4 lanes of Gen 4 on mobile, which kind of makes sense because 4 lanes of Gen 4 is about the same as 8 lanes of Gen 3, which should be enough
for most cards.
Yeah. And that's assuming they just don't go with their own internal GPU, and that is for your NVMe.
Yeah, I think for most people, if they're buying a thin and light form factor Intel laptop anyway, they're going to be content with that new, faster integrated graphics solution. Yeah, the XE. Was there anything else you guys wanted to talk about this week?
I still want to know if Tesla's going to include a slot in case your AI is running a little bit slow that you can throw one of the 3090s in.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to
age your self-driving car. Oh, God.
Yeah, you have to leave the car. Well, no, never mind. I was like, leave the car running. It's a Tesla. When it's running, it's draining the battery. I'm an idiot. Yeah. And I don't think any alternator in any current combustion car could keep up with that either. 350 watt power draw. Well, you'd have to team all of the cigarette lighters in your car together, and it would still melt something.
I don't think that works, but
sure. No, it wouldn't work. You couldn't team them like that? Come on.
No.
And the heater would be dead, totally gone. Sorry, can't run the heater, the air conditioning while it's running.
All right, well, this has been going on for about an hour. That was pretty fair.
Yeah, we did good. Yay.
So until next week, thank you for watching.